Presentation is to introduce you to Rodney Stark's The Triumph of Christianity. This is a great book, a great resource for you to have and for you to use in your graduate education and for your ministry, whatever you're doing after you, well, right now, or for whatever you're doing after you finish with this degree. It's a book not written for an academic audience, but written for a general audience. It's very readable, and it challenges a lot of suppositions that we have about history and about Christianity. So I think you'll enjoy reading the book. You get to choose chapters out of the book that you are interested in, and then there's some that are assigned to you. Okay, what's important to keep in mind when you're reading Stark's work here is that he is not making the case for Christianity from a theological or an apologetic perspective. He is a social scientist, and he has gone back and he has examined the historical records, and he is going to make the case that Christianity has become the world's largest religion. That's the point of his book, and he's going to defend that and explain that using historical facts. Now, he's also going to pull out a number of I think I'm going to call them urban legends that we've all maybe heard as we've taken history classes or just heard through word of mouth that aren't really true about Christianity and about Western history. And so you'll see some of those in some of the chapters that you look through in the book, and he's going to debunk those and explain why we've come to believe some of those that aren't really true. And so it's really a very interesting read, and will really help you understand more about Christianity and more about its role in Western civilization. It's a very important book, and it's a very important history of Christianity. I think it's going to help you understand Christianity's role in Western civilization. When I teach Bible studies or teach worldview classes, this is an important part in that teaching, some of the findings that he has made in his historical analysis. So I think this is going to be a tremendous help to you. As you get into the book and as you get into the course, you'll see that there are chapters that you get to select. There are sections of the book, and you get to pick chapters that are of interest to you. So as you flip through the book, look at the titles of the chapters, and maybe you might skim the beginning or maybe the conclusion of a chapter and see what looks interesting to you. Some of the chapters are kind of critical, and so I'll assign those to you to read. But again, as I said, since it's aimed at a general audience, it's not real heavy to read. It's very interesting to read. And again, since he's debunking a lot of things that we've just assumed is true about history, if you'll remember from maybe history that you learned in high school or maybe courses you took as an undergraduate, some of the findings that he presents will surprise you. And so skim through the table of contents and then flip through the book and see how he answers that question, how the Jesus movement that we see in the Bible, in the New Testament, that begins in Acts, how did that become the world's largest religion? How did that happen? And that's kind of what he tries to present here in this book. I think it'll be very interesting to you, and I think it'll be very interesting to other people in your sphere. The conclusion of the book summarizes those central themes. I think that if you start with the conclusion, if you go to the very end of the book, and he almost takes the whole book and puts it into a series of points, central points, kind of central statements about here's what the book is all about. And that may be a good place for you to start, is just go to the very end and look at the points that he makes. And that's what the whole book is. He tries to prove with the whole book. He's a social scientist, And so he's trying to prove something with this book. And so that may be a really good place for you to start if you want to get a really good idea of what this book is about. Go to the very end of it. But again, remember, he's not trying to make a religious explanation. He's not trying to be an apologist. He's trying to use history and social science to demonstrate why Christianity triumphed in the West, why Christianity, really globally, and why Christianity works so well as a religious belief. And he's written several other books accomplishing the same kinds of goals. So maybe, and that seems kind of silly, doesn't it? But maybe the conclusion is the best place for you to start to get a good feel for this book. Go to the very, very end and flip through that and look at the points that he makes. Again, I think you're really going to enjoy the book. I use it in several other classes, and students really are surprised by it, and they enjoy it, and they scratch their heads and they think, why didn't anybody teach me this when I learned history in other classes that I've taken? And he explains that too in the book. Anyway, I think you'll learn something, and I think this will help you tremendously in your study of Christianity, and certainly in this course.